All right, welcome back to our third episode of our Corecast. With us, the co-author of Free the Idea Monkey, Raphael Viton, and Lynda McNutt Foster with Cortex Leadership Consulting, and I, Becky Freemal, with WFXR News in Roanoke, Virginia. We've been talking about, to go all the way back to our first episode, the idea monkeys on one side and the ringleaders on the other, and how sometimes they're polar opposites in the workforce. One of the things, Raph, you've talked about was that what I've been reading up on actually is exercise versus training, and that there's a distinct difference between the two, it seems as though. Talk a little bit about getting these two people together and how they have to train to work in harmony.
Yeah, and I would say not harmony. It's,
Don't get too crazy.
no, not harmony. The tension, the creative tension is good. Like, it's really good. How do we harness it? How do we do something constructive with it? And we can, if we're in love, we can. But the idea of training versus exercise, the metaphor, just because for me, it's always been easier to talk about the physical aspects of transformation because you can see it, right? You can't see what's transforming inside my brain. When the paradigms and the meaning-making systems change in my head, you can't see it. Right. But like physically, so the metaphor works in that regard. So some people exercise to be, just to be not as out of shape.
Got it.
Right? Or just to lose some weight, just to be less unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And by exercise, it just means, well, can you stay active long enough to get in an hour worth of exercise, which is fine. Sometimes that's all you need. But when you are in training to be expert, to be competing at a world-class level in pick your domain of choice, that requires a different type of focus, a different type of deliberate, focused practice, which is what we call training. And that's where we have very explicit goals. We track and measure how we're doing against those goals. And we continuously increase the amount of load or the amount of tension to make sure that we are building those muscles to get to the goal, right? And some of the differences, if you just want to exercise to be healthy, great. But if you're training to be a world-class or Olympic cyclist, that looks very different. And it looks different with regards to, oh my gosh, the Olympics that just happened a few months ago, right? When you saw all those people training, you saw Michael Phelps training, that was a lifestyle choice and focus of attention and deliberate practice around getting to that goal, right? He's competing at an Olympic level. And when we talk to senior leaders of mega corporations, the idea is you are a professional and you are trying to get your company to build these new capabilities or cultural attributes around innovation, customer experience, collaboration, creativity. That looks very different than, I just want to be creative for a little while. I just want to do a crossword puzzle and be creative. I want to very different muscles in terms of how focused you're going to be on building those and training those. So that's and it gets us to the, I don't know if the Prochaska's stages of change, which
the what?
Oh yeah, that's the 6 stages of change. We learned that in class. Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm.
The idea that at some point, when we're engaged, when Lynda and I or anybody like us, a professional like us, is in the room with these leaders, they've already decided that the new business strategy requires these new capabilities. It requires these world-class muscles and competencies in, pick the attributes for that specific domain. So therefore, until you reach a conscious competency level with those attributes, you are consciously incompetent. And if you're exercising, you have not reached that Olympic level yet to be competing in a way that your organization is reaping the benefits or reaping the value of said investment.
Mm-hmm. Talk about these because people, that are not in your business are not going to understand what did you call it? The Prochaska?
Oh, Prochaska.
So no one knows what that is. Those people who are listening, kind of break it down in easy form. Lynda, I'll let you break it down. Break it down.
Grab that. Yeah, it's the basic model of, about 20 doctors got together and did this massive research about how we change. And what they determined is that there's 6 stages of it. There's pre-contemplation. Nah, I don't really need to do that. To contemplation, maybe I could, maybe I should change. To move into, you know what, I'm going to change. And so you info gather, you prepare, that's stage 3. 4th, which is so funny. People think people just wake up and go into action. It's actually the 4th mental thing that we go through is going into action. Then the 5th is maintenance. That's where I say success is not sexy. Right? Because you're doing it. It's kind of like when you lose 20 pounds, everybody goes, oh, that's awesome. You look fabulous. And then 6 months later, they see you again and you still lost the 20 pounds. Hey, Becky.
Yeah.
How you doing? Right? So maintenance is this space that's difficult to keep up. That's why so many people relapse.
Got it.
And
so you go through these like
you
a
go
cycle.
through these, and then the 6th stage is termination. I actually modified that to say habit, because habit to me is unconscious, right? It's unconscious competence where you just automatically do it without even thinking about it anymore.
And those are the new default habits, right? When you get to a place that, because right now, and this is a very simple way to talk about it, right? Everybody's at their own current level, trying to get to a next level, whatever that is. I'm at my own, you're at your own. Our organizations are at our own current level, trying to get to a next level. And at the current level, we have default habits. And without awareness, we get trapped in those default habits. If we're not even aware that we're there using those old habits, and if we're not aware of what's available to us, there's no way we're going to break through, current level to next level. So the idea of, and we call it vertical learning as opposed to horizontal learning, right? Vertical learning is about really being able to upgrade the operating system so that all of those skills operate with higher levels of awareness, where you're able to see more and be open to more options and choices, which help you make better decisions and therefore better strategy. And it's without awareness, all you have is default. With awareness, you have a lot more choice.
Exactly.
Right. Absolutely. Talk about the D30 that I keep looking at. Drop everything and train. Is that exactly what you mean?
Yeah, that goes back to what Lynda was talking about. That action phase of the stages of change. So you said most people won't know Prochaska's stages of change, and here's what else. I wouldn't let any senior leader of any company off the hook with that. I would say you're responsible for communities of people, thousands of people, and you're responsible for leading them to the promised land, to that next master plan. You're responsible for amplifying the business strategy. And if you aren't aware that you have chosen change, there's a problem. And we're with the action phase. It not only does it become about you being a good example of change and you being an example of deliberate focused practice to build those new muscles, to admit you haven't worked on those muscles, but you're going to commit to it and you're going to build them. Let's build them together. If you don't do that, what message are you sending to those thousands of people that report to you, right? The message you're sending is, it's really not that important, and that's the double binds and the organizational contradictions that are rampant and that are part of the root cause of why transformation often doesn't work. Most often doesn't work is because the leaders are not aware that they're not doing that training. And most leaders will come up with lots of reasons and excuses and they're filled with the scarcity mindset that there is no time for them to train. But apparently there's time for them to clean up, 2 and 3 and 4 years later when they haven't built the new muscles and capabilities that they promised they were going to help build. That doesn't make any sense. So, and in there is they're not bad. These leaders aren't bad, but they need somebody who's willing to confront them with their freedom to choose to do the exercise, to do the training, to train like they want to be world class and like they're committed to helping the communities be world class, or just stay in the current level and maximize profits and do what you got to do there, as opposed to the false attempts, I think.
We talk a lot about how these leaders and these companies need to be, and you've said it a lot, more collaborative, more curious, more creative. and Lynda, I'll let you start with this, which is once they become more collaborative, curious, and creative, what are you seeing? What happens in these companies? Why do they need to be this? I could see some old curmudgeons maybe listening to you and saying, Psh, we're fine.
You know what I think? The reason I love to do this work with the people that are training and who have committed to that, and I'm thinking about a particular client right now that's on my mind, is that their industry has hit all kinds of obstacles over the last 3 years in every way possible, and they maintain their market leadership over and over and over. And it's because they're never out of training. They are constantly looking for new tools. They're cascading this work as quickly as they can down to the managers. I was just working with them on Friday, and it was so important to them that they understand conversational intelligence at their entire management level, so that when those managers face the challenges on a micro day-to-day level, they can use these type of techniques to quickly move through them. And so I think that's the biggest thing. It's that innovation doesn't happen and you get one product and you move on. Innovation in today's marketplace, I think there was a quote in one of Raph's things. What does it say? It said here that 65% of U.S. CEOs acknowledge that the next 3 years will be more critical for their industries than the last 50. This change thing isn't something that's just going to happen this year. This is constantly going. So if they can't adopt habitually an innovative mindset, they're not going to stay competitive. It's too easy to open companies now. It's too easy to draft millennials who are hungry. They're hungry and they're curious. And if you know how to tap that, they'll work their butts off for you.
So as we wrap this up, Raphael, I want you to talk kind of on that same line, advice to anyone who might be listening, any leaders, why it's so important to start down this path.
Yeah, well, things are never going to be this slow again.
Fair enough.
Right? I mean, I'm not trying to persuade anybody that they should be more innovative at all. It's if you are deciding that you and your organization, your community, your family need to be more adaptive, would benefit by being more open to more ideas, more perspectives, as opposed to just coming into the challenge with your own perspective. Like if you believe that the success will be greater and results will be better if you have more perspectives brought to any challenge, then it behooves you, it behooves me, behooves us to build those muscles that help us be more able to quickly recover. That's what one of the things Lynda was talking about, recover from the emotions that get us trapped in non-resourceful, non-effective, non-productive ways of being, and actually get to a stage that we can experience the emotions because we're human beings and they're going to happen anyway, and instead choose to not focus on the emotion or the problem, but instead choose to focus on the outcome we want or the values that we believe will get us through the challenging times, and instead kind of learn to increase our performance under increased stress is really what the training is all about. And as a leader of my family, my community, and my company, I think that's my job to do. And not just because I need to be good at it, but because I need to be facilitating diverse groups of people to bring 110% of their creativity, intelligence, curiosity, and courage to bear on the challenges that are ahead of us. Because that's how together we're going to be more successful, as opposed to convincing people that I've got all the answers and all the ideas that we're ever going to need. Because like we said, things are changing so fast and never going to be this slow again.
And it's up to the leaders, bottom line, to get this done. As you said, it cascades from the leaders down. Respect, innovation, decisions.
It always starts with the top level leadership. It's very difficult to start this work at mid-manager level. what you're going to get is a lot of frustration from those managers. They're going to learn these techniques, and the top level leaders aren't going to know what they're talking about, and they're not going to be thinking at that same level.
The system always wins. The inertia, created by the system, which means the people that are, that have more decision rights than other people within the system, will create that energy around what is valued and what isn't valued. And it's hard to, there's no question it can happen bottom up, it can happen middle, down and up, but it's not very likely to happen anytime soon unless you are actually gathering the top leaders. And actually, those other directions, when it does happen, there's so much more unnecessary suffering and permanent damage to the system when leaders don't just recognize their own responsibility in the transformation process. And if they're not feeling the tension that the front line's feeling, might be less likely to, go through the hard work, the deep work of change, if they're not feeling any of that pressure and tension, if you will.
Perfect. I think we're good. Raphael, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you joining us. All the way
Pleasure.
from Chicago, right?
Chicago
today, yeah.
Chi-town. All right. Well, again, Raphael Viton with the Free the Idea Monkey. How did I lose the idea part? Co-author of Free the Idea Monkey, and Lynda McNutt Foster with Cortex Leadership Consulting. Lynda, thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
That is a wrap of this particular Corecast. We will have, I am sure, no doubt, many more to come. Have a marvelous day.